So this is my interactive advanced concept presentation number 4, which is the elephant toothpaste. And this is a photo that I took of the reaction that occurred during my experiment. So for an overview of the experiment, the materials that you need are a plastic container. You also use a plastic bottle if you'd like. 1 packet of the dry yeast that you can get from the baking section, 3 tablespoons of warm water, 15 milliliters of dish soap, food coloring. The color you use doesn't really make a difference. And then a half a cup of 10% hydrogen peroxide. So the steps to complete the experiment. Step 1, you want to add a half a cup of the hydrogen peroxide to the container. And then you're going to add about 10 drops of food coloring to the container. And then you add 15 milliliters of the dish soap to the container. And you want to switch it around so that way everything gets mixed together. So that way the reaction can happen as it should. And so then in a separate container, you want to combine 1 of those yeast packets and about 3 tablespoons of warm water, and you want to mix it for about 30 seconds or until you have the consistency that's of melted ice cream, and you can add a little water as necessary to get that consistency if things aren't mixing as they should. So then after that, you want to add the yeast to the container that contains the hydrogen peroxide, the food coloring, and the dish soap. And then you just watch the reaction occur. And here is a photo of the hydrogen peroxide, food coloring, and dish soap. And you can kind of see it's all mixed together. The blue is the dish soap, and it's yellow because I used yellow food coloring. And then this is a picture of the yeast with the consistency of the melted ice cream, and it's pretty smooth and there's no chunks and whatnot. So this is a video of the reaction. So from mine, you can see that when I added the yeast, it did form the bubbles and the reaction occurred, and the solution started growing out of the container. Unlike the YouTube video, it didn't flow out of it onto the counter or surface or plate or whatnot. I think that's because I used a larger container. If I had used a smaller one, I'm sure that would have happened. But you can see the bubbles forming and the foam is created and it rises pretty quickly. So if I had used a smaller container, I probably would have done that. But why does this reaction occur? So the yeast is used as a catalyst in this reaction. A catalyst is something that helps speed up a reaction significantly so that way it occurs quicker. So when we added the yeast to the solution, it sped up the reaction in the solution by breaking apart the oxygen bonds that were in the hydrogen peroxide. And since that happens, that's why you see all those little bubbles quickly forming when the yeast was added. And you can kind of see them still at the end over here, or you can see them right there. That's a part of the reaction. This type of reaction is actually an exothermic one. When the yeast is added and the reaction starts speeding up, it actually creates a heat, and the heat goes onto its surroundings that it's in. So in this case, the container. And so when the foam was created, it created the heat and then even caused the plastic container to become slightly warm. Not anything crazy, but you could feel that when you touched it. But yeah, so that's the overview of this experiment and the science behind it, and it's pretty interesting. And that's it. Thanks.